we are going to do another episode of Aviation Prattle /Gaming. We're gonna do a lot of these. The General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon is an American single-engine supersonic multi-role fighter aircraft originally developed by General Dynamics for the United States Air Force. Designed as an air superiority day fighter, it evolved into a successful all-weather multi-role aircraft with over 4,600 built since 1976. Although no longer purchased by the U.S. Air Force, improved versions are being built for export. In 1993, General Dynamics sold its aircraft manufacturing business to Lockheed Corporation, which became a part of Lockheed Martin after a 1995 merger with Martin Marietta. The F-16's key features include a frameless bubbled canopy for enhanced cockpit visibility, a side-mounted control stick to ease control while maneuvering, an ejection seat reclined 30 degrees from vertical to reduce the effective G-forces on the pilot, and the first use of a relaxed static stability fly-by-wire flight control system that helps make it an agile aircraft. The fighter has a single turbofan engine, an internal M61 Vulcan cannon, and 11 hardpoints. Although officially named Fighting Falcon, the aircraft is commonly known by the nickname Viper. In addition to active duty in the United States Air Force Reserve Command, and Air National Guard units, the aircraft is also used by the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds Aerial Demonstration Team, U.S. Air Combat Command F-16 Viper Demonstration Team, and as adversary/aggressor aircraft by the United States Navy. The F-16 also has been produced by the air forces of 25 other nations. As of 2024, it is the world's most common fixed-wing aircraft in military service, with 2,145 F-16s operational. The U.S. Vietnam War experience showed the need for air superiority fighters and better air-to-air training for fighter pilots. Based on his experience in the Korean War and as a fighter tactics instructor in the early 1960s, Colonel John Boyd, with mathematician Thomas Christie, developed the energy maneuverability theory to model a fighter aircraft's performance in combat. Boyd's work called for a small, lightweight aircraft that could maneuver with the minimum possible energy loss and which also incorporated an increased thrust-to-weight ratio. In the late 1960s, Boyd gathered a group of like-minded innovators who became known as Fighter Mafia, and in 1969, they secured Department of Defense funding for General Dynamics and Northrop to study design concepts based on the theory. Air Force FX proponents were opposed to the concept because they perceived it as a threat to the F-15 program. But the United States Air Force leadership understood that its budget would not allow it to purchase enough F-15 aircraft to satisfy all of its missions. The Advanced Day Fighter concept, renamed FXX, gained civilian political support under the reform-minded Deputy Secretary of Defense David Packard, who favored the idea of competitive prototyping. As a result, in May 1971, the Air Force Prototype Study Group was established, with Boyd a key member, and 2 of its 6 proposals would be funded, one being the lightweight fighter. The request for proposals, issued January 6, 1972, called for a 20,000-pound class air-to-air day fighter with good turn rate, acceleration, and range, and optimized for combat at speeds of Mach 0.6 to 1.6 and altitudes of 30,000 to 40,000 feet. This was the region where United States Air Force studies predicted most future air combat would occur. The anticipated average flyaway cost of production version was $3 million. This production plan was hypothetical as the United States Air Force had no firm plans to procure the winner. 5 companies responded, and in 1972 the Air Staff selected General Dynamics Model 401 and Northrop's P600 for the follow-on prototype development and testing phase. General Dynamics and Northrop were awarded contracts worth $37.9 million and $39.8 million to produce the YF-16 and YF-17 respectively, with the first flights of both prototypes planned for the early 1974. To overcome resistance in the Air Force hierarchy, the fighter mafia and other LWF proponents successfully advocated the idea of complementary fighters and high-cost, low-cost force mix. LWF is lightweight fighter. The high-low mix would allow the United States Air Force to be able to afford sufficient fighters for its overall fighter force structure requirements. The mix gained broad acceptance by the time of the prototype's fly-off, defining the relationship between the LWF and the F-15. The YF-16 was developed by a team of General Dynamics engineers led by Robert H. Widmer. The first YF-16 was rolled out on 13th of December 1973. Its 90-minute maiden flight was made at the Air Force Flight Test Center at Edwards Air Force Base, California, on the 2nd of February 1974. Its actual first flight occurred accidentally during a high-speed taxi test on 20th of January 1974. While gathering speed, a roll control oscillation caused the fin of the port side wingtip mounted missile and then starboard stabilator to scrape the ground, and the aircraft began to veer off the runway. The test pilot, Phil Ostricher, decided to lift off to avoid the potential crash, safely landing 6 minutes later. The fucking legend. Slight damage was quickly repaired and the official first flight occurred on time. The YF-16's first supersonic flight was accomplished on the 5th of February 1974, and the second YF-16 prototype first flew on the 9th of May 1974. This was followed by the first flights of Northrop's YF-17 prototypes on the 9th of June and 21st of August 1974, respectively. During the fly-off, the YF-16 completed 330 sorties for a total of 417 flight hours. The YF-17 flew 288 sorties, covering 345 hours. Increased interest in the LWF into a serious acquisition program. NATO allies Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Norway were seeking to replace their F-104G Starfighter fighter bombers. In early 1974, they reached an agreement with the U.S. that if the U.S. Air Force ordered the LWF winner, they would also consider ordering it as well. The U.S. Air Force also needed to replace its F-105 Thunder Chief and F-4 Phantom II fighter bombers. The U.S. Congress sought greater commonality in fighter procurements by the Air Force and Navy, and in August 1974 redirected Navy funds to a new Navy Air Combat Fighter program that would be a naval fighter bomber variant of the LWF, or lightweight fighter. The 4 NATO allies had formed the Multinational Fighter Program Group and pressed for a U.S. decision by December 1974. Thus, the U.S. Air Force accelerated testing. To reflect this serious intent to procure a new fighter bomber, the LWF program was rolled into a new air combat fighter competition in an announcement by the U.S. Secretary of Defense James R. Schlesinger in April 1974. The ACF would not be a pure fighter but multi-role, and Schlesinger made it clear that any ACF order would be in addition to the F-15, which extinguished opposition to the LWF. ACF also raised the stakes for General Dynamics in Northrop because it brought in competitors intent on securing what was founded at the time as the arms deal of the century. These were Dassault Breguet, or Breguet, fucking French. Proposed Mirage F1M53, Anglo-French Sepiquet, Jaguar, and the proposed Saab 37E Eurofighter. Northrop offered the P530 Cobra, which was similar to the YF-17. The Jaguar and Cobra were dropped by the MFPG early on, leaving 2 European and 2 U.S. candidates. On the 11th of September 1974, the United States Air Force confirmed plans to order the winning ACF design to equip 5 tactical fighter wings. Though computer modeling predicted a close contest, the YF-16 proved significantly quicker, going from one maneuver to the next, and was the unanimous choice of the pilots that flew both aircraft. On the 13th of January 1975, Secretary of the Air Force John L. McLucas announced the YF-16 as the winner of the ACF competition. The chief reasons given by the Secretary were the YF-16's lower operating cost, greater range, and maneuver performance that was significantly better, quote-unquote, than that of the YF-17, especially at supersonic speeds. Another advantage of the YF-16, unlike the YF-17, was its use of the Pratt & Whitney F100 turbofan engine, the same power plant used by the F-15. Such commonality would lower the cost of engines for both programs. The Secretary, McLucas, announced that the United States Air Force planned to order at least 650, possibly up to 1,400 production F-16s. In the Navy Air Combat Fighter Competition, on the 2nd of May 1975, the Navy selected the YF-17 as the basis for what would become the McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet. The one we went over, I do believe last episode, was the Hornet. Could be wrong. It was one of the last 2 episodes was the Hornet. The United States Air Force initially ordered 15 full-scale development aircraft, or FSD aircraft. In case you hear me say FSD, that means full-scale development. 11 single-seat and 4 two-seat models for its flight test program, which was reduced to 8 6 F-15A single-seaters and 2 F-16B two-seaters. The YF-16 design was altered for the production of the F-16. The fuselage was lengthened by 10.6 inches. A longer nose radome was fitted for the AN APG-66 radar. Wing area was increased from 280 to 300 square feet. The tail fin height was decreased. The ventral fans were enlarged. 2 more stores stations were added, and a single door replaced the original nose wheel double doors. The F-16's weight was increased by 25% over the YF-16 by these modifications. The FSD F-16s were manufactured by General Dynamics in Fort Worth, Texas at United States Air Force Plant 4 in late 1975. The first F-16A rolled out on the 20th of October 1976, and the first flew on the 8th of December. The initial 2-seat model achieved its first flight on the 8th of August 1977. The initial production standard for the F-16A flew for the first time on the 7th of August 1978, and its delivery was accepted by the United States Air Force on the 6th of January 1979. The aircraft entered the United States Air Force operational service with the 34th Tactical Fighter Squadron, the 388th Tactical Wing or Fighter Wing, at Hill Air Force Base in Utah on the 1st of October 1980. The F-16 was given its name of Fighting Falcon on the 21st of July 1980. Its pilots and crews often use the name Viper instead because of a perceived resemblance to a Viper snake as well as to the fictional Colonel Viper starfighter from the television program Battlestar Galactica, which aired at the time the F-16 entered service. On the 7th of June 1975, the 4 European partners, now known as the European Participation Group, signed up for 348 aircraft at the Paris Air Show. This was split among European participation air forces as 116 for Belgium, 58 for Denmark, 102 for the Netherlands, and 72 for Norway. 2 European production lines, one in the Netherlands at Fokker's Schiphol Oost factory, and the other at Sabka's Gosselies plant in Belgium, would produce 184 and 164 units respectively. Norway's Kongsberg Våpenfabrik and Denmark's Terma AS also manufactured parts and sub-assemblies for the EPAF aircraft. European co-production was officially launched on the 1st of July 1977 at the Fokker factory. Beginning in November 1977, Fokker produced components were sent to Fort Worth for fuselage assembly, then shipped back to Europe for final assembly of the EPAF aircraft at Belgium plant on the 15th of February 1978. Deliveries to the Belgian Air Force began in January 1979. The first Royal Netherlands Air Force aircraft was delivered in June 1979. And in 1980, the first aircraft were delivered to the Royal Norwegian Air Force by Fokker and sent to the Royal Danish Air Force by Sabka. During the late 1980s and 90s, Turkish aerospace industries produced 232 Block 30-40-50 F-16s on a production line in Ankara under license for the Turkish Air Force. TAI, or Turkish Aerospace Industries, also produced 46 Block 40s for Egypt in the mid-1990s and 30 Block 50s from the 2010 onwards. Korean Aerospace Industries opened a production line for the KF-16 program, producing 140 Block 52s from the mid-1990s to mid-2000s. If India had selected the F-16IN for its medium multi-role combat aircraft procurement, a 6th F-16 production line would have been built in India. But they didn't. May 2013, Lockheed Martin stated there were currently enough orders to keep producing the F-16 until 2017, which is a long-ass time for them to continually produce the same plane. Fuck, that's over 40 years. Or I think right around 40 years. One change made during production was augmented pitch control to avoid deep stall conditions at high angles of attack. The stall issue had been raised during development but had originally been discounted. Model tests of the YF-16 conducted by the Langley Research Center revealed a potential problem, but no other laboratory was able to duplicate it. YF-16 flight tests were not sufficient to expose the issue. Later flight testing of the FSD aircraft demonstrated a real concern. In response, the area of each horizontal stabilizer was increased by 25% on the Block 15 aircraft in 1981, and later retrofitted to earlier aircraft. In addition, a manual override switch to disable the horizontal stabilizer flight limiter was prominently placed on the control console, allowing the pilot to regain control of the horizontal stabilizers and recover. Besides reducing the risk of deep stalls, the larger horizontal tail also improved stability and permitted faster takeoff rotation. In the 1980s, the Multinational Staged Improvement Program, MSIP, was conducted to evolve the F-16's capabilities, mitigate risks during technological development, and ensure the aircraft's worth. The program upgraded the F-16 in 3 stages. The MSIP process permitted the quick introduction of new capabilities at lower costs and with reduced risks compared to traditional independent upgrade programs. In 2012, the United States Air Force had allocated $2.8 billion to upgrade 350 F-16s while waiting for the F-35 to enter service. One key upgrade has been an auto GCAS, ground collision avoidance system, to reduce instances of controlled flight into terrain. Onboard power and cooling capacities limit the scope of upgrades, which often involve the addition of more power-hungry avionics. Lockheed won many contracts to upgrade foreign operators' F-16s. BAE Systems also offers various F-16 upgrades, receiving orders from South Korea, Oman, Turkey, and the U.S. Air National Guard. BAE lost the South Korean contract because of the price breach in November 2014. In 2012, the United States Air Force assigned the total upgrade contract to Lockheed Martin. Upgrades include Raytheon's Center Display Unit, which replaces several analog flight instruments with a single digital display. In 2013, sequestration budget cuts cast doubt on the U.S. Air Force's ability to complete the Combat Avionics Program Extension Suite, and part of the secondary programs such as Taiwan's F-16 upgrade. Air Combat Command's General Mike Hostage stated that if he only had money for a service life extension program or a Combat Avionics Programmed Extension Suite, cancellation with a fixed price upgrade package for foreign users. CAPES was not included in the Pentagon's 2015 budget request. CAPES is the Combat Avionics Program Extension Suite. I'm just going to call it CAPES. I'm not going to read it out every time. The United States Air Force said that the upgrade package will still be offered to Taiwan's Republic of China Air Force, and Lockheed said that some common elements with the F-35 will keep the radar's unit cost down. In 2014, the U.S. Air Force issued a RFI to SLEP, or SLEP, the Service Life Extension Program, 300 F-16C and Ds. To make more room for assembly of its newer F-35 Lightning II fighter aircraft, Lockheed Martin moved the F-16 production from Fort Worth, Texas to its plant in Greenville, South Carolina. Lockheed delivered the last F-16 from Fort Worth to the Iraqi Air Force on the 14th of November 2017, ending 40 years of F-16 production there. The company resumed production in 2019, though engineering and modernizing works will remain in Fort Worth. A gap in orders made it possible to stop production during the move. After completing orders for the last Iraqi purchase, the company was negotiating an F-16 sale to Bahrain that would be produced in Greenville. This contract was signed in June 2018, and the first planes rolled off the Greenville line in 2023. Yeah, it's good shit. Normally I would get into the design a little bit, but we're not going to do that tonight, as I pretty much covered, all the upgrades and shit like that. I'm actually going to probably end my stream here, because it's super fucking cold. So yeah, that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you're at in the world. Enjoy your time, because it may be limited, unlike the production time of the F-16, which was fucking long time, 40 years. Don't get me wrong, the A-10 has been on the production line for a long time as well. But Nonetheless. Nonetheless, 40 years is still a long fucking time, is it not? Is it not? Either way, enjoy your time, because it may be limited. That being said, I will catch you all next time